Hey everyone, I am having a play with some photo paper. If you have a secondhand shop or a thrift store that's close to you, you've probably seen packages of photo paper. And look at all of these. Half of this, maybe 3/4, is photo paper. The rest is like print paper. So sometimes I need to be more careful when I buy to make sure it just says photo paper, because I ended up getting some that was like, it has an adhesive back, which is kind of cool. I'm sure I'll figure out something to do with that, maybe with some acrylic paints. Anyway, that's not what's happening today. Today is for photo paper, and I was going to say that you can find this really cheap at secondhand stores. I got all of this plus this one, which was completely full. It was probably about that thick. All of it for less than $5. And keep an eye out for that, because it's a lot of fun to play with. And ooh, you know what I noticed in my video? I'm sure somebody picked up on it. My knuckles look like baby elephant knees. And don't get me wrong, I'm thankful to have hands, but they do, don't they? Look. Anyway, okay, I'm getting sidetracked. I tried alcohol inks, distress inks, watercolors, watercolor markers, which basically is any marker that's says, you know, that you buy for your children that says it's washable, any of those. The only thing I didn't try was, that I have, is watercolor pencils, and I'm sure it would react just the same. I wanted to show you some things that I've made with it, and I want to make a really clear disclaimer here, because I made myself really sick. I'm sure that in the videos that I've watched, it probably says, well, more than likely they've said, be in a well ventilated area, you know, this and that, for your alcohol inks, because you will get, well, not everybody, but I did get very sick, and I'm not a sickly person. I don't get sick very often at all, and I was very sick. And it took me till the next day. I actually saw a post on someone else's video that an artist was saying a friend had gotten deathly ill. I was nauseous, I lightheaded. It was, anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just want to be sure. Don't try to kill your brain cells like I did and work in a teeny tiny little space with the door shut. So I'm probably not going to do any alcohol inks today, because I just got rid of that headache. And like I said, I need my brain cells. I don't have that many left, and I need to keep what I got. So I'm going to wait till the weather gets nicer and play with the alcohol inks outside, or at least be able to open up the window and whatnot. Anyway, so these are just some things that I made with them. This one is alcohol inks, and on your photo paper, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know, but I'll just go over it real quick. You have the flat side, which usually has your markings on it, and then you have the shiny side. I think the water-based stuff works better on the side that's flatter. And I thought the alcohol inks, everything moves better on the wrong side, it seemed to me like. So this one is an alcohol ink. And see all the pretty movement. I'm sorry, I already sewed a piece of vellum to make a pocket on this one. And I didn't cover up the back where the ink had run underneath, because I liked the added texture to it. But you can write on it. It's definitely a writing spot. And I just put a couple pieces of ephemera in here. Anyway, I made a pocket out of one. A couple of them, actually. Oh, and an afternote to the fusing napkins to the copy wrapping paper. It works on fabric. This is fabric. And I mean, it really, really holds. I was really shocked about it. I did sew around it only because I like the look, but you wouldn't have had to, because, well, look at that. I pulled it right up. But most spots, look, it's very fused. I must not have got that one very good. But all of this is very fused. Of course, the one spot that I pulled up to show you wasn't, but for the most part, I think you wouldn't have to glue or sew. So I just made a little envelope out of that one to tuck in here. And this one is also alcohol inks on the doll side. I just like the markings on it better. I did back this one for writing. I made a couple of tags. This was made out of the same piece. I had in my mind I was going to stamp and then put them in a, they're not complete, but, and then put them in a book or something to get, I don't know where I was going. But anyway, what happened, when I stamped this, just so happened I stamped where there was lighter spots. And there's a big circle of light around her mouth. It looks like she has a face mask on. So I had to cover it with, I don't know if that fixed it or not. I need to put some tabs on. This is the dull side. I think that looks so pretty. Love the colors. And these are alcohol inks. These are also alcohol inks on the shiny side. This was a mess. Look, you can tell it's just a mess. And I did write on it to see if it would, you could see it. I used a gel pen. See, I wrote the word love. I think it worked well. I think my problem with the alcohol inks on the shiny side was it doesn't move as good as probably Yupo paper or the papers that are made for the alcohol inks. Once it stops moving, even when I sprayed it with isopropyl alcohol, it didn't move a lot. And I'm sure everybody knows that, but isopropyl alcohol is what makes your alcohol inks move once you squirt them, and they dry really fast on this stuff. You can squirt them with that and it'll keep moving, or give it the splatter effect. Like in here, I used a spray bottle and made that splatter effect. The higher the content of alcohol, the better. I think, I don't know, I should have Googled it, but I think you have to have at least 93 or 95% for it to move it around really well. I had some like that we all go to Walmart and buy probably for home. I think it was 91% and it didn't do anything really. It didn't move it. So I actually think I ended up ordering that off of Amazon. That's a lot of information that I'm sure you don't care about. But anyway, this is also alcohol inks on the shiny side. This, no, that's a lie. This is not alcohol ink. This is distress ink. Like this. And see how it moved so pretty? And I just, once it dried, and it dries really fast, I stamped on it. That's another thing. When you stamp, use your rubber stamps on this. If you put your stamp down onto your paper, it's going to stick, which is wonderful because I'm not a good stamper. I don't have a good steady hand. So I was able to pick it up and push from the back and get a good stamp. And then I just put some die cuts, explore, discover, create, a couple more little splatter things. That one is distress ink. Oh, another little thing that I made was a specimen card. I liked that look. I thought that was pretty. Plus which, I didn't have to do much to the inside. I wouldn't have had to do anything because like on some of these where the color got on the back, when you close it, you have that background color. I did take a script stamp and go over it a little bit, and then I put a sticker in it. This is watercolor on the flat side. This is also watercolor on the shiny side. To me, there's not much difference. I will say on the watercolors, and I'll show you later on, anything that's water-based kind of gets a little film on it, but it'll wipe right off. I did see a video where someone said you need to seal this. I tried scratching it and it doesn't come off. And, you know, you can tell there's nothing on my fingers. But they used hairspray to seal it. I didn't try that. I felt like I had enough chemicals that damaged me that day. But I have also read that hairspray turns things yellowish. But I don't know if that's true or not either. So those are some things you might want to look into. And like I said, this is the flat side, this shiny side, not a whole lot of difference. And the movement really was just as good on both sides. Maybe I liked it better on the matte side. This is a hot mess, but when I cut this down, maybe use some die cuts and cut little tags, but it's thick and I think they'll be really cute as little tags to hang like charms. And there are certain areas I love the color, but this is watercolor markers, and the thing I noticed most about it is when you use a watercolor marker on the shiny side, you don't have a lot of time to start moving that. It's best to spray it with water first and then put on your marker and it'll move. But if you mark first, I don't know if you can see, you can kind of tell where I marked. And then you spray it, it doesn't, where you initially mark kind of stays there. So if you're going to do it on the shiny side, I would spray it first, then put your markers into it. This is the flat side where some got onto. On the flat side, especially the flat side, you need to leave it to dry. It takes a little longer to dry because when you initially do it, it will just rub right off. But see how pretty it moves and makes the water droplets, the watercolor? I think it's pretty. But we're going to cut this one and make some things out of that. I'll show you that it's not terrible. This is alcohol inks on the shiny side. Ugh, this is terrible. This was a fail. And I used cotton ball to do the alcohol inks. And see, it just, to me, it just didn't look very good. When I did the alcohol inks on the flat side, to me it looked better like this. See, and you get more water markings, and I sprayed it and it held those little dots. When I did that on this one, on the shiny side, it didn't hold all my textures. That's alcohol inks. Isn't that pretty? All those little watermarks and textures. And again, this was not my idea. I can't remember her name. I'm going to link it below so you can watch her video. She had a lot of tips like this, and that's where I got the idea. This one is Distress ink on the shiny side. It does have some cool textures to it, but it doesn't move as much to me. Kind of gets a film on it. I think I already did this one. Let me show you one I haven't wiped off. See, it's kind of got a dull film over it. Again, this is the Distress inks on the shiny side. But if you let it dry really good, you can just take a dry towel and see how it shines right up. Gosh, isn't that pretty? And that was Distress inks. So I think, I don't know, I would just play around with it and see what you like better. I did like the Distress inks on the shiny side, and I like the alcohol inks on the dull side. So I don't really know that there's a specific way to do it. It just seems like you kind of have to play with it and see which works better. It was pretty. This is alcohol ink on the dull side. I just loved it. I thought definitely alcohol on the dull side for me because it just moved so much better. And it was, you know, whenever it dried a little bit, I could squirt it with the alcohol and it would move everywhere. Also, I did try on the shiny side using the blending liquid for alcohol inks, and again, it just didn't move that well for me on this paper. Water-based, I went ahead and grabbed some acrylic paints because I haven't tried acrylic yet. Wanted to try that, and none of my acrylic paints are expensive. I think these came from the Dollar Tree. This one came from Hobby Lobby, but it was half off when I got it. I think I have a Walmart. So, I mean, you don't have to have expensive. I'm hoping that this works. And then also, I grabbed some of my watercolor paints. And I grabbed this sponge because I know that you can use things to texture it while you're doing it. So I thought, I've been wanting to try a sponge a long time, not just for this, but for many things. So I think I'm going to cut a little piece of this sponge off where I don't have to get the whole thing wet. And we're going to play with it too. I don't have fancy brushes or anything. Imagine if, you know, good at this stuff, you have really good tools and probably could make really beautiful things. I'm just going to get them wet because I don't know what colors I want. At first, I'm just going to mark. I've squirted my paint. My advice would be just play around. You know, use wet paper, use dry paper. See what you like the best. Ooh, that does look kind of neat. See the, I don't know, see the little porous spots there. Do the same color on the matte side. I know that a real artist is probably saying, what are you doing? Well, I don't know. I couldn't tell you other than I think it's going to make me happy in the end. How about that? Another thing that works good on this is if your paint is really wet, you can flick it. Now I'm just taking the tip of my brush and making random marks with the blue. So on the water base, they don't dry right away. You'll have to set it aside and let them dry. And I think I'm going to leave them like that. I kind of like the, I don't know, just the hazy, lighter look. I think I like that. So I'm going to let this, I'm going to quit messing with these and let them dry. Now, let's try some acrylic paints. I haven't done acrylics yet, so this might be another flop. This is kind of a metallic color here, so I probably won't use much of that. Kind of a mustard metallic. And this is like a burnt sienna looking color. And then the first one I put down was Payne's Gray. And I just grabbed a couple colors. I didn't want to overwhelm myself with too many. Add some water to my paint. So I'm just putting down some color randomly, adding a little bit of water to make it move around. Daubing off some as I get too much water. And that also leaves a lot of texture. Randomly using the sponge to give it those little circles, kind of like water droplets. And doing some splattering as well. Adding a little bit of the yellow on both. That one is done. Add a little bit more yellow to the matte one with some more sponge. And then I will finish it off with a little bit of paint speckles. I'm just going to put a little bit of rusty hinge. So I'm going to just barely squirt this and take my brush and move it around just a little bit, because I do like some of those speckles on there. And it gives you quite a bit of texture. You can also spray it like this with the water. You'll see it just doesn't move around as much as on the matte side. And it still dries pretty fast. This is the matte side. Now I'm going to spray it, and you'll see it moves a lot better than the shiny side does. But again, it's like any of the watercolors that I've shown you so far. It has to dry. It doesn't dry as fast as the alcohol inks. So now I'm going to just take some brushed corduroy. This is still pretty wet, so I'm just going to dab that on there and see what happens. Ooh, that looks good. But as you can see, some orange came off on the plate. That's okay, we'll just keep moving it around. Squirt it. I like the textures we're getting on that one. This one's still wet. Don't know if this is going to be a good idea. I'll probably just get mud. Like I say, you just have to play with it. Because I don't get the same thing twice, and I don't know if I could if I wanted to. Not that I want to. I like the difference of all the things. I'm going to flick this on there. That's the matte side. So you can kind of tell the difference from the shiny and the matte. Really should have put on the gloves, shouldn't I? Now I'm going to use some liquid distress inks. So I've got Spice Marmalade, Gather Twigs, a Black Marble Shimmer Spray, and a Camp So Teal Shimmer Spray. I don't have a lot of the distress sprays. It's the shiny. And here's the matte. And I haven't wet anything yet. I'm going to put the black in the background, and this is the shiny. And once this dries, your texture is just going to stay exactly like you sprayed it. If you want to make it move a little bit, you can spray it with a hit, just spray it with some water. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is just take my brush that I was using and splatter some water. And then if you got a run that you're not crazy about, you just stop it with your thing. It will take up a little bit of your color, as you can see. So I'm going to let this one be. Then we're going to go on the matte side. So you kind of saw how that moved around. This is not wet. See how it's bubbling so pretty already? And I'm just going to flick some water on it, and it gives it that spattered look. I think I like that. Okay, so I went ahead and blow dried all of, added heat to all of these. Another thing I would say is you probably don't want to hold it still for very long, because you will melt it. I can feel it now. Probably everybody knows that but me. Just like closing myself up with the ether from the alcohol inks. So this is Distress Ink spray on the shiny. Here's on the matte. See, here's the watercolor on the shiny, the watercolor on the matte. Really can't tell much difference. I think on the matte it's actually a little more vibrant. Even though it's dry to the touch, it's still not. Best to wait overnight or it will completely rub off. This one is the Acrylics, and I think this is by far my favorite on shiny, and Acrylics on the matte. And this one actually is dry, so it doesn't really have a film on it though. That is the way it looks. You could probably put Mod Podge over it and give it a shinier look, as well as seal it in. But I really like the acrylic on the shiny. I thought that turned out pretty good. This is the shiny Distress Ink pads that we smudged. I think out of all of these, my favorite today was the Acrylics of the Distress sprays. I think they're so pretty. And I'm going to cut out some of the fails. Going to do some little die cuts to show you how I was thinking of making little charms out of them. I just used 3 different ones, and you can see these 2 are really pretty. This one's kind of a but maybe I can stamp something on it or to make it look good in the end. And then I had 3 more. Oh, here they are. Here's 3 more. I think those are so pretty. And this one. And I think that you take your ball pen and punch a little hole, and they would make really cute charms. Just like on this book, the colors. See, wouldn't that look cool hanging off the side of a page on a charm or on a little ball pen? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this project. I hope you have a play with some of these. I will definitely cut out the rest of the colors too and use them in all kinds of ways. I think this is just one more fun, easy way for us to make textured backgrounds. I hope you don't just think, boy, that's time of my life I'll never get back. If you do decide to do these, I would love to see your projects, the things that you make. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you have ideas or suggestions of other ways to use the photo paper, let me know. Leave a comment. It would be cool. I would love new ideas on how to do all the things. I will see you next time. Bye.